There's a small little hill inside the city called Chamundi Hill. This is a hill I know very well, right from my childhood. I've trekked here, I've camped here. For the youth in Mysore, it's like this. If we want to ride our bicycles, we went up Chamundi Hill. We want to test our motorcycles, we went up Chamundi Hill. We want to have a party, we went up Chamundi Hill. You fell in love, you went up Chamundi Hill. You fell out, you have to go up Chamundi Hill. If you have nothing to do, you have to go to Chamundi Hill. So I had nothing to do, so I went up Chamundi Hill. So I parked my bike there and as I was very familiar with the mountain, I just climbed up and sat on a rock. Till that moment, I always believed, this is me, that's you. Suddenly I did not know which is me and which is not me. What was me was just all over the place. The very air that I breathe, the rock on which I'm sitting, the atmosphere around me, just everything was me. Every cell in my body is bursting and overflowing with ecstasy. Something was exploding within me. I did not know what it is, I did not know what to call it. All I knew was I've hit a gold mine and I don't want to lose it. That's all I knew. It was too fantastic to be lost. So, the energy, the intensity of what this mountain can transmit, what this peak can do to people is too phenomenal. If we have to generate this kind of energy, enormous amount of work has to be done, enormous. Here it's ready, sitting there. All you have to do is just look up and say Shiva. All you have to do is look up and be receptive to it, that's all. When such a energy basis is available, this is the kind of energy which can be a base for a whole spiritual revolution which can go through the country or through the world. So, we're seeing how to build the needed infrastructure where people can come and we can give them the necessary tools, go through 40 to 48 days of sadhana before they go up, some simple sadhana which everybody can do and they can go up and become absorbed by this energy or at least absorb a little bit of that energy and come down or never come down. Because when Sadhguru Sri Brahma went up for the last time, he went up many times, when he went up the last time, he said he will come back. He went and left his body there. So, this is a mountain of a temple. If you have to create that kind of energy, what it takes is not simple. It's not simple at all. It will be phenomenal work. So monumental, it's almost humanly impossible kind of work. But it's all done and kept ready, just in a natural form. If we don't make use of this would be very foolish, especially for the local population. It would be extremely stupid not to make use of this energy, because this can transform everything that human being is. Mato Tapila, in my experience, in the entire North American continent, at least in United States and Canada, I would say, is probably the one most powerful space that you can see in this part of the world. It has a dimension, see, in the yogic dimension, we look at it as human body, the energetic body of the human being is like the cosmos. It has 114, energy points. Of these, two are outside the physical structure, rest are inside. So these 112 are made into seven categories, which are generally in America known as seven chakras and things like that. Of these seven, there is one in the throat region which is called as Vishuddhi. I would say for 99% of the people, this Vishuddhi remains in the seed form, it never sprouts because it is a power center. If you know something about Indian culture, the first yogi in India was called Adi Yogi, which means the first yogi. Actually, we have erected a 112 feet tall face, which is the largest face on the planet actually. I don't know if you've seen that, you can see that image in the thing, it's a 112 feet tall bust. Because he is the first yogi, to honor him, because he gave us the technologies for well-being, how to handle human well-being from within. So in this, he is also called a person who is powerful in his throat. And his throat is blue, and there's a snake around his throat, all this imagery. Why this is so is, this dimension we called Vishuddhi is one dimension which in the throat center needs maximum amount of skill and capability to evolve. What I saw, I was there on the full moon night in Mato Tapila. It was explosive dimension of Vishuddhi or the throat center. Anybody who has done any kind of a little bit of search with that energy around would naturally become an exploration of mysticism is very natural. Tab, you are a singer, you must spend minimum 3 days at this Mato Tapila, especially on the full moon night. I'm telling you, you will realize something tremendously powerful. Anybody who realizes or opens up the throat center, their ability to connect with life, I'm saying when I say connect with life, you can touch beyond your physical reach, literally touch. So, this dimension of life is very, very rare. There are various centers in the world which activates different dimensions, but the throat center being this powerful is hardly 2-3 places in the entire globe, I'm telling you. I was just amazed. The way it is reverberating with this dimension of life is just absolutely amazing. I do not know how it has happened. Nature has done it. In India, we create our own structures. We create consecrated structures to reverberate this kind of energy, but what we make is of small proportions. But here it is standing in such a magnificent form, and this in many ways, I've spoken in detail about this, I don't want to go into the detail. This in many ways, whether tribes were from the plains or from the mountains, from the coast, wherever they were, this has influenced the entire culture in a huge way.
So the yogis also, people who have the privilege and the burden of carrying a dimension which is not in the experience of common people, also wherever they sit and stand, they lay their eggs. But why they always move to hilly regions, certain spaces which are identified as sacred, is simply so that these eggs are not trampled upon, but rather experienced, made use of, so that something will fly out of it. So they choose places. Tapovan has been one bird's nest where many yogis have chosen to lay their eggs. But the biggest pit of eggs is probably the Kedar. Kedar, every kind of bird laid its eggs, multicolored, and they got all mixed up. So, if you have been initiated in a certain way, you become open to a certain aspect of experience. There are so many other things there which you are not open to. But if you are initiated in a particular way, you become open to that particular dimension. The whole basis of creating temples in India is just this. A certain egg is laid and you are supposed to approach it in a certain way. For every deity, there is a certain type of approach so that you can experience that.
as subterranean spaces, a diameter of 2 to 3 kilometers.
Life from somewhere has chosen this almost like an airport.
From feet up to navel, it's a fully developed male form, but on top of it, it's all translucent.
His problem was he could enter the solar system only at certain times.
They want me minus my body. It would be nice one day to step in and see what the hell. Why Kailash has always been considered as the abode of many great beings is because many great beings chose to deposit their work, preserve their work in Kailash. Starting from Shiva himself, and the first of the Tirthankars, and two of greatest Buddhist teachers. All these people chose Kailash Parvat as a place to preserve their work. When I say preserving work, for most mystics on this planet, till now, in all these thousands of years, if they get to share 1 or 2% of their work with people around them, they are very fortunate. Most of them don't even get to do that. So they always chose to deposit in some space which is not too frequented by human beings. At the same time, it's accessible for those who wish to go. So Kailash is such a place. It is not totally inaccessible, but it's hard enough to discourage a lot of people. There are many places like that. But in terms of the volume and the variety that's been deposited in Kailash, it is the place. So this is why it is known as the abode of Shiva, not because if you dig in the rock somewhere you will find him, because everything that he knew has been deposited there in a certain energy form. So, all that is valuable for us in his life, from his life, is here. So in that sense, he's alive here. He's still living here because in an energy form he's alive. Many beings are alive there. But you should not go about imagining, because the first thing that happens to people who go to Kailash and Manasarovar and Kami is they looked up in the sky, you see that? Shiva and Parvati. Don't miss the bull.
So the very reason why we take people into the mountains is to make them experience the mystical dimension of the Himalayas. We are not a tourist company. If you go there by yourself, the enormity of the mountains, the natural beauty of the mountains is so overwhelming that you will just be gaping at every rock and every peak, because it's much more than your eyes can grasp. It's very difficult for you to understand what's Himalayas, even physically. Right from my childhood, I had seen many photographs of Himalayas, I had seen many documentaries about Himalayas. I had a huge picture of Himalayas in my mind. But the first time I went there, everything that I had in my mind was shrunk. What is actually there is far bigger than that, you know. It's very difficult even to take it all into your mind. So if you go there, generally the physical Himalaya itself is too overwhelming. It puts you down to your size. You'll become a small little human being, like an ant you'll become. Once you go and stand in front of Himalayas, you feel like an ant crawling up on the earth. But the mystical dimension will be missed because you'll go about gaping at the beauty of Himalayas. So, the very purpose of taking people on a trek like that is so that they can have an experience of a completely different dimension. If I go into these things, it'll go endlessly. Your question. Let me try to bring a little experience to you. This was many years ago, and that day I was sitting there alone. In terms of visual beauty, it's the most incredible place that you can think of. Snow-clad mountain peaks, completely snow-clad, everything. And there's like a lake which is about 2 kilometers, 2 square kilometers kind of lake. Absolutely still, reflecting the mountains. It's not even a blade of grass anywhere, everything is white, and this patch of water reflecting the mountains. It's indescribable, really, even visually, I'm saying. So I was just sitting there, my eyes open, and suddenly everything in my experience, my physical body, the rock on which I'm sitting, the mountains, the lake, everything became sound. What was all form became everything into sound. Now that sounds crazy. When everything becomes sound, we call such a state as Ritambara Prajna. When you're in a Ritambara state, everything becomes sound. It's based on this Nada Brahma. And in my own voice, this song is going on like full volume. I can clearly feel that my mouth is shut. I'm not singing, but it's my voice in full volume. The song is just going on. Kashi is the holiest of holy cities, one of the most ancient cities of learning. This was a place where hundreds of enlightened beings lived at a time. Every street you walked, you had an enlightened being to meet. So, it became a tradition in this culture, if you want to die, you must die in Kashi. If you die in Kashi, your liberation is guaranteed, because there are so many enlightened ones, every day they come to have bath in the Ganga. All you have to do is just have a glimpse of them, and when they see that your time is near, definitely they will help you and you're through. So even today it is believed, when you come to a certain old age, people travel to Kashi, wait there to die. This tradition came simply because every generation saw hundreds of enlightened beings living in Kashi, and it became the greatest core of learning.
There are various forms of mystical processes on the planet, but South Indian mysticism is very unique and profound in its nature.
There is a whole deep culture down south which has never been exposed to the world, which has never been talked about, which has never been written about anywhere in the world. So there, this temple building evolved a different kind of significance, it became a different kind of science. South Indian temples are huge and elaborate. These temples were created by Siddhas and yogis who knew the ways, very scientifically structured structures. They knew how to create a powerful place. They built one the way it should be, they used the right kind of materials and created such powerful spaces. Because the science of creating this was so much at hand for them.
Tiruvannaikaval is significant because it's water temple. Water is significant because A large part of you is water. 72% of your physical existence is water. So taking care of the water is very important. Very, very important how the water behaves within you. This place has been visited by 3 of the Saptarishis, Agastya, Gautama and Kashyapa. All 3 have been to this temple. We are talking about 15,000 years ago, they visited this temple. At that time it might have been a smaller structure, but the linga was there. The greatest highlights in the yogic culture, like Patanjali attained in Chidambaram, Vyagrapada attained in Chidambaram, Sukha attained in Chidambaram.
So, we are very interested and very drawn to that place because the consecration was actually done by Patanjali Maharishi, and he did it with a certain science behind the whole thing. Because Patanjali is not a devotee, he's a scientist. And he set up proper ways of how to conduct the temple.
One of the largest temples in India, the Tyagaraja temple in the town of Thiruvarur, has 365 Shiva lingas, one for each day of the year. It also houses the largest temple chariot of its kind in Asia. The significance of this temple is reflected in the ancient saying, one can attain mukti if they die in Kashi. One can also attain mukti by taking birth in Thiruvarur.